Welcome back everyone. We have to do another video on the iPhone 6s Plus and see how it holds up in the middle of 2020. Now I've already done a full review early on this year and not a ton of crazy things have changed, but we've seen some price changes for sure. We've seen new updates, we've seen a new iPhone come out, so it's so worthwhile to talk about this specific phone. Now the iPhone 6s Plus came out in 2015, so it'll be turning 5 years old this year, which is pretty insane. Now with the 6s Plus early on this year, about that January timeframe when I reviewed this phone for the first time this year, they were selling for about $140 to about $150 in the used market for the base model. Right now in May of or June of 2020 for that matter, these things are still selling for about $140 to $150 on most places. Now if you go to eBay, you might be able to snag one up for a little bit cheaper, so kind of keep that in mind. But if you go on Amazon or these other places, they're probably going to charge you that same amount. But if you want to pick one up, I'll find the cheapest one on Amazon and link it down in the description below so you guys can get it from there and help support the channel at the same time. Now the outside, I've already hit on the body a lot and I'm sure you guys already know so much about it. It has that 5.5 inch panel on the front, 1080p, not a bad panel. I think it looks pretty good. You just have a lot of bezel around the display, but I think even now in the mid of 2020, not a lot of people are freaking out about this type of phone. You have the home button on the bottom with Touch ID, which some people might actually prefer considering we'll have to wear face masks and stuff. On the bottom, lightning port with the headphone jack, which is cool, and on the back a single camera setup, which is good enough I guess for a lot of people's taste for sure. And it still feels pretty good in the hand. It doesn't feel like a cheap phone, and in terms of the outside, that really pretty much covers it. Now the software is one of those things that's gotten probably the most amount of updates since January. So I think we started this year off with like 13.1 or maybe even 13.2. Right now we're on 13.5.1 and the 6s Plus runs it fairly well. One really good thing, and this is very, very important for me to say, for every single time I updated my 6s Plus, I never really ran into a boot loop issue or I had to factory reset my device or anything like that. So luckily nothing like that has happened, which is a really good sign. And another big thing is that I've jailbroken my 6s Plus a ton of times, and every single time I jailbroke my 6s Plus, again, I never really had any problems with it. I've jailbroken my iPhone 8, that gave me some problems. I've jailbroken my iPhone 10 using checkra, that gave me some problems too. My 6s Plus really hasn't had too many problems ever since I updated it or jailbreaking or anything, and that's a really big deal because people are going to be doing these things on a daily basis or a weekly or monthly basis at least, and they don't want a phone that's going to brick on them all the time. And with the 6s Plus, I never had that experience, and it really has held up in my opinion in terms of the software and just the durability of it, I guess, in terms of a software standpoint. So in terms of that, thumbs up for sure. The performance wise is still pretty much how it was early on this year. You have that Apple A9 chip, a dual core CPU, and a couple different models with 2 gigs of RAM. Now what I'll tell you, I'll be completely honest, I think this phone, still is a pretty good performing phone. It's not an amazing performing phone. It won't get you super fast performing speeds or anything, but I think for a phone that'll get you from point A to point B, it'll get you there. It can really do anything you throw at it for the most part. Again, it's not the fastest thing in the world, but I don't think it's the slowest thing in the world either. If you're playing games, if you're doing heavy intensive stuff, it'll definitely be able to handle that, I think, for the most part. So in terms of performance, I give it a thumbs up as well. The camera is also single 12 megapixel camera on the back. This was the first iPhone to shoot 4K videos, and we haven't really gotten any software updates in terms of the cameras, to improve the camera quality or anything like that, or gain more features in the camera. Maybe iOS 14 will do that. But for the 6s Plus, we haven't had that, which is kind of sad, but it is what it is. The camera quality, I think, is still great enough for a 2015 phone. You can still do 4K, which is really cool too. On the front, 5 megapixel sensor, you can do 1080p video on that. And I think for the most part, it'll get the job done. It's a very good performing phone in terms of the camera standpoint. And I'll say, it still gets a thumbs up in my books. Now ending it off with the battery life, you have a 2750 mAh battery within this thing, and it's still a pretty good sized battery, you know what I mean? It really hasn't deteriorated too much from the beginning of this year to now, which is a good sign. Maybe it went down 1%, but again, I even use my phones pretty extensively. When I do use them, I let them die down all the way, which I really shouldn't, but the battery life, I'll still say, is a pretty good thing about this phone too, and I'll say it's a little bit above average. Now, to kind of sum up this video and to answer the question, is this phone still worth it in the middle of 2020? I'll say, yeah, I think this phone is still worth it, but if you're going to pay more than like $200 to $300 for this thing, I would recommend just buying an iPhone SE 2020. That'll do you much better in the long run. It's much faster, better cameras, all this other stuff. So even if you spend over $200 on a 6S Plus, again, I would probably end up recommending just picking up an iPhone SE 2020 and moving on with your life. That'll probably do you much better in the long run than an iPhone 6S Plus, but it is what it is. Again, if you want to pick one up, links are down in the description, but that's really pretty much it. If you guys have any other questions or anything, let me know in the comment section as well. Hit the like button, that'll mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. Every single subscriber that we get really does count, so it means so much if you guys could hit that. Also, check out the other links down in the description as well. My Twitter, my Instagram, my second channel, all those links are linked down below. I'd really appreciate if you guys could check it out. More importantly, everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.